I mean, a couple of stories I would say. I mean, Stevie Wonder driving a tour bus is something that I need to ask you about.
And he starts revving the bus and fiddling about with the gears and doing this on the steering wheel, And anyway, he was always, joking and being funny. And of course, that freaks out the girls now because, hey, stop him.
I want to ask about Led Zeppelin because I'm a big fan of Led Zeppelin anyway. So you've done a lot with Zeppelin in the past.
For the famous Shea Stadium show with the Beatles. And we're still very good friends.
That's a great story. That's amazing. That's like a bit of when a joke goes a little bit too far, I suppose, isn't it?
Welcome to BizVoices, the podcast that amplifies the business beat. Hosted by Cameron Mills, award-winning entrepreneur and founder of the acclaimed Cameron Mills Group. Each episode brings you face-to-face with some of the most influential minds in business today. Join Cameron as he talks to directors, CEOs, and industry leaders, uncovering the struggles of running a successful business and revealing top strategies for growth, leadership, and innovation. Get ready to hear real stories, practical advice, and the insider insights you won't find anywhere else. So, sit back, relax, and let's amplify your business journey on BizVoices, an Evolution Media production.
Okay, so I'm very excited to have a great guest who has got some incredible stories. I think that's safe to say. And I'm really looking forward to talking about a few of them and talking about your career to date. It's the one and only Carl Miller. How you doing, Carl? You all right?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to chat to you. You've had some amazing stories throughout your career today. I'm sure you'll agree. And you've put them all down in a very exciting project that you've got that's come out. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But can we just talk about, your career foundations, how it all started? And, tour management isn't a kind of standard job, if you like, when you're at school. They don't say, who wants to be a tour manager? That doesn't happen very often, does it? So how did you find it? How did you find tour management?
Oh, yeah, well, it's sort of started as a gradual progression, really. I started way back in the 60s with a band called the In-Betweens. I started hanging around with them. Anyway, eventually the In-Betweens split up. They half became Slade. I'm sure everybody will know. And the other half got a gig as a backing group for American vocal acts like the Temptations, Four Tops. So, would you come and help us out? Because I picked up a few tricks by then,
Absolutely.
And I said, yeah, okay, fine. We can pay you about £3 a week. So I went, yeah, okay, I'll go. Anyway. That carried on for a while, and as a consequence, I bumped into a few times a chap who worked for a band called The Move, and he recommended me to the Foundations.
Okay.
So got the call from the Foundations. They said, "You up for it?" Blah blah. Yes, we'll pay you £20 a week.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice jump, So I joined them, and then I had about 3 years with them, and that's really how it evolved. To be honest, Cameron, it sort of started. The whole thing, you had to learn a little bit of everything.
Yes,
absolutely. How to do sound, how to do logistics, how to work out the gigs, blah blah blah, and the back line and everything. So you had to have a working knowledge of virtually everything that was going on,
Absolutely.
And be a bit of a mechanic as well, in case the motor broke down.
Well,
so it was a bit of a jack of all trades, really. And then after the Foundations broke up, I did a couple of freelance jobs, and then I got a full-time job with Cat Stevens.
Amazing.
Who when I started with them, there's just a three-piece. There was Cat Stevens, Alan Davis, and Larry Steele. There was just the three. So again, I was doing all the jobs. And then as Cat Stevens got more and more successful, we had to take on more crew. The band got bigger, so it got a little bit more compartmentalized. So then I engaged a proper sound guy, an audio guy. Then we had a lighting director. Then we had backline crew. So, then you have to tour manage not just the band, but the crew as well, So that's really the way it started. I mean, in the old days, of course, things were done by, payphone, if you could find a phone box that was working, no mobile phones or anything like that, and iPods and things. But so it's really, and of course, it's got bigger and bigger, as you probably know. I mean, now an entourage on a band tour can be what, 200 or 300.
Amazing, isn't it?
I mean, if you look at Wembley, big shows at Wembley in the stadium, or stadium gigs. I mean, it's outrageous,
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's quite interesting to talk about the essential skills, if you like, because a lot of people, I think if you said to somebody, Carl is a tour manager, they might not really understand what that is and even know that that exists. So I suppose if you go and see a show at Wembley, like you say, or O2, or even a smaller venue, you don't really know that that's a role that's existing in the background. So do you think you could explain a little bit more what, essential skills you kind of need to be a tour manager? And I know, like you said, that's changed, but sort of like fundamental things that are sort of quite common.
Yeah. I don't think it's not really. I think tour managers probably still need something along the same lines. There's a working knowledge of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But of course, the essential skills are, I suppose, it's being conducive. You've got to get on with people.
Yeah, of course.
That's the main thing. I mean, because you're not just liaising with the artists and the crew, you're liaising with promoters, record companies, the venue staff, press, people like yourself in radio.
Yeah.
I mean, you're liaising with all these sort of people. So social skills, I think, is a bit of a must.
Yeah, that's interesting. I suppose it's quite a unique role in a way as well, a role that deals with so many different people and so many different departments. So like you say, you as the tour manager, you're dealing with pretty much everyone that you come across when you're doing a tour and when you're out on the road. So that's quite unique, I guess, in a way, isn't it? And having to adapt to know how to deal with all the different people as well, because I'm sure they all have their own little quirks and how they like to be dealt with. So it's kind of getting used to all of that as well, isn't it?
Sure, yeah. I mean, and of course, and also you've got to be aware that, a tour manager, if anything goes wrong, it's your fault.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's not a great thing.
No. And of course, you've got to have sometimes, you have to dig in a little bit and say no now and again. Can't be done. We can't do that, blah, blah, blah. So there's that, you have to be diplomatic, shall we say.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you deal with that? Because I think that's one of the hardest things in business, and not just in business, personally for us as human beings, saying no sometimes is a really hard thing to do. So, did you have an approach of how you dealt with that? How did you get on with having to say, do you know what? That's a no, I'm afraid we can't do that.
It begins with a lot of humming and hawing.
Yeah.
and listening to the other person, put their point first, and then, logically work it out. I don't know, for example, can't do that because we're in New York that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you sort of, try and maneuver your way in.
Absolutely. And I suppose sort of working. Yeah, absolutely. And working with them. So I suppose trying not to sort of close the door straight away.
Yeah. Because nobody likes a clever chappy, do they?
No, definitely not. No, absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit, how there's, to be honest, the fundamentals are pretty similar to what it was, when you first started tour managing to what it would be today. But do you think there's some big changes as well from how touring's changed? Because, I think the scale, obviously, it's some of these tours we're seeing now with some major artists are just unbelievably big on a scale that you would just never imagine. You see all of the lorries and the tour buses. It's like unbelievable, and you just can't fathom how that all works. So, what do you think's changed between when you first started out with the tour managing to, what happens now for a tour manager?
Well, I think the biggest change obviously got to be technology.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, everything's computerized now. I mean, when touring really kicked off in the early 70s, because with the Foundations, for example, people ask me, did you ever tour with the Foundations? And I used to say no, because the Foundations didn't tour. They just kept on gigging. It was a 5-day gig all the time. There was no breaks and then you go on tour. It was just constant. And so I think when I started to putting tours together in the classic sense, I mean, itineraries, for example, were on paper.
Right. Yeah.
Now they're on tablet.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
and mobile phones, of course, must be a great nowadays to have mobile phones. Have a phone in your pocket for a tour manager. It's a godsend.
Yeah, just to suddenly make that quick call. And actually, I suppose you take that for granted now, don't we? If you say, "Oh, where have they ended up?" Well, you can just quickly give them a call and find out. Whereas before, that would have been quite a task. Just to
Well,
find where
before
someone's.
that, I mean, before that, you'd be driving down the motorway and have to pull off onto a services to make the phone call, and then
Wow,
queue up
yeah.
for the phone.
Yeah, of course, there'd be a queue for it then. Yeah,
It's a real drag if you're in a rush.
absolutely. Yeah, if you're on that time, which a lot of the time you're on that time constraint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And of
Wow.
course, in the old days, you get a phone box and you could guarantee somebody had jammed a 10p coin in it and you couldn't use it.
Oh, so you just finally find one and then you couldn't use it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, mad. Yeah. And one thing I found really interesting, like looking at obviously what you've created, is the difference of how a tour manager's treated now as well, which I think was great. Because, you said you're sleeping in vans, wherever it may be, a railway station, whatever you can find, that was as good as you could get between tour. But now obviously you've got the budgets, you're getting a hotel, you're getting full hospitality backstage, you're treated like the star, so that's obviously quite a big shift as well.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, of course, in the early days, I mean, places used to close at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like shops and a lot of even, petrol stations, they would be closed. So you'd have to work, that had have to be factored in as well. Excuse me. And I think if we were lucky, you'd find a chippy open.
Yeah.
Late, just grab the last bits from the chippy, things like that. There was no backstage catering, anything like that. It was, muck in and help yourself sort of thing, all of that's changed tremendously. And of course, attitudes. I mean, it was a very blokey job in those days as well. There's a lot more females doing the job now as well.
Yeah, definitely, and that's great to see, isn't it? And that change, and that blows me away actually when you think someone like a tour manager who actually put it all together, without you being there and being present and orchestrating, or the tour wouldn't be happening. But then you weren't being sort of looked after just like they are today. So it's quite amazing to think, isn't it, how that's changed, how it shifted.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a quantum leap, really. It really is, for considering how it really started. And of course, venues have got bigger and bigger. People don't realize that. I mean, with the foundations and early days of Cat Stevens or any of the acts around at that time of that stature, I mean, a 1,500 seater was, you were doing okay. And if you could get to, headline, say, one of the Odeons, like Hammersmith Odeon, as it used to be in the old days, that was considered, pretty good, and of course, then it went up to, bigger places, like 3,000 seaters plus 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and now you've got 60,000.
It's mad, isn't it? And look at someone like Coldplay, obviously got a week in Wembley.
And a week in the same place, yeah.
Wow. How do you even... And actually, when you sit and think about it, that's what I've been doing as well. I think if you think of the sheer amount of people that is coming in every single night for 7 nights, one band creating that is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember in the early 70s, with Cat Stevens and a couple of other bands of that level then, like perhaps Zeppelin, The Who, we started doing the arenas. We just got into the arenas, on the tour but last with Cat Stevens, 20,000 seats, Madison Square Garden, that kind of thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And you've got loads of stories. I mean, there's going to be a few that we can talk about for sure. But one thing you're very passionate about talking about is the people around you being so important, crew management, say most important part of a successful tour is the crew and the people that are putting everything together. And is that something you think is still very important and kind of basically makes the tour a success?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you've got to have, it's got to be a good bonding between all the crew, or going down all the levels, and being able to work together as a team. It's a team job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, when you see a show and then it finishes and you're sort of leaving the venue, you see everybody come out, don't you, and working together to finish the night, and it's unbelievable operation, isn't it?
Absolutely. And of course, what we used to call the tear down after the show. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people they just go home. But I mean, the crew have still got another 2 or 3 hours work to do after that.
Absolutely, yeah, into the early hours. And in terms of decision of who you have on a tour, you obviously are part of that as well. Is it purely a business decision for you? Are you thinking like that? You think this has to be the person that can do this, that can achieve that, and can work in this environment? Or did you have any sort of personal decision making that came in of how a person was personally, or was it purely very business?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but there was a few occasions on the road when I've had to let people go.
Yeah,
Because for one reason or another, and not particularly, that they're that bad at the job, it just wasn't
no.
gelling.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
which is not a nice thing to do, but at the end of the day, the show comes first.
Yeah, that's what the job is. That's what you're there for. Yeah, and I suppose if you've got one particular relationship that isn't working, isn't gelling, that does have a knock-on effect for the whole crew, doesn't it?
Sure, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, it can have, and if you allow it to go on, it doesn't get better.
No, it's going to get worse, isn't it?
The old saying, nothing gets better and it gets worse. So you have to do something about it as soon as, really.
Yeah, and do you know what? A lot of people that I've spoken to on this podcast, they all say, having the right people around you is the most important thing, and having positive energy around you, and getting rid of anything that's kind of, any moaning or any negativity, things like that. And is that something that you stand by as well in terms of a bit of advice for people that it has to be any industry, really, can't it? Is that something that you're a strong stand by?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that goes with any kind of professional job,
Yeah.
your teamwork, you don't want moaners, And of course, you see what people don't realize, it's not a job where you do you clock on and clock off.
No. Yeah.
I mean, a working day when you're touring can be, 12, 14 hours
Absolutely.
in a day. That's if from beginning to, first thing in the morning to last thing at night, especially if you're traveling long distance.
Yes, well, you've got the travel involved in that as well. It's not just sitting in an office for that amount of time. You're going to a lot of places, a lot of physical work as well, isn't there, involved?
Yeah, going through airports, and then getting down to the venue, sound checking, blah, 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 checking in a hotel, I mean, and then getting up again and doing all the same thing again the following day, I mean, nothing to start at eight or so in the morning, or even earlier sometimes. And you wouldn't get crashing to bed till what, 2 in the morning?
Yeah.
The following morning.
That's long, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
So, you need a bit of staying power.
Yep. Absolutely. And you've got to love it, I think, is the way, isn't it? You've got to be passionate about it, and then it won't affect you. Something like that long a day, it doesn't really matter to you because you're loving what you're doing.
Do you know what, Cameron? That's an interesting thing you say there, because when anybody's asked me that, I've said it's one job or profession, whatever you want to call it, that you've got to be completely in love with. The moment you fall out of love with it, pack it in.
Really? Yeah. That's amazing advice, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's at any...
Don't do it unless you're totally 110% in love with the job.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't work.
No,
it won't
definitely.
Work.
And that applies to all elements of the, the tour or the crew, whatever you're doing, you've got to love it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was, for a while, I worked at Columbia Records, CBS Records, as artist development manager there. And I remember meeting all sorts of talented people, really, really talented people, but they fell short and weren't successful because of their will to win. And by definition, I've met some people that weren't quite so talented, shall we say 80 or 90% as talented, but just had that tenacity, that really will, I'm going to make it.
100%. Yeah. And that applies, I've noticed that applies to, the stars and the performers, if you like. It isn't always, even if you've got a session band behind you or you've got a band behind you, it's not always the best players in the world. It's those people that are going to show up, they're nice to work with, and they want to be there. And it's really interesting, isn't it, that it applies to all sorts of roles. You've got to love it. You've got to have the will, or else it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, no, you've got to fit in, absolutely. You've got to slot in, just like a jigsaw puzzle, really. You got to, all pieces go to make the picture, as you like. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, you're quite right. I mean, people with the less talent have made it big time.
Yeah, definitely. I love that slotting in with a jigsaw, and that can apply to someone who's listening from any other kind of industry. It doesn't have to be a music industry. That still applies, doesn't it? You've got to slot in. You've got to be that part of the jigsaw. I love that. Then you make that one big picture at the end, and it just works.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got their little piece. There's probably a kingpin.
Yes,
shall we say? In Cat Stevens is a great example of being the kingpin. Everything evolved and revolved around that.
Yeah, it's like the main piece that makes the picture. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that motivates, doesn't it? It comes from the top for sure, doesn't it? If they're motivated, they've got the will, then quite likely the people underneath working with you, alongside you, are going to have that will too. Yeah, that's great advice.
Off. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned lots of stories. I mean, you could talk for days, probably, couldn't you? We could probably do a whole series of all these amazing stories. Looking at them, some of them I'm just sat there thinking, how, why, so many questions about them. But before I talk about a couple of highlights, I think, that I've seen from reading what you've created, is there anything that stands out for you in your career that, for people that are listening, that has just really blown you away and made you think that's a real pinnacle point of your career that's made you sort of stop and think, wow, has that just happened?
Yeah, I mean, there are coming, but I couldn't put them in the book.
No, I love that. Yeah, you've had to do a censored version. Surely there's another version you can release at some point.
Yeah, the X-rated.
I was going to say, it's on the black market somewhere or something, I expect.
Yeah, on the dark web or something.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure there's a market for that out there.
Yeah. No, there's always been, there's always some highlights. There's some lowlights as well. Let's be real about it,
And that's actually important to hear as well. I think that's important on this podcast. I've been really passionate about talking about things that haven't gone well and things that have made people really struggle, because we're all very easy to post online, aren't we? And do all of this, life's amazing, I'm doing really well and everything's brilliant. But actually behind that, there's probably 2 or 3 things that really struggled with as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yin and yang, it can be, I mean, some of the disasters, I've had to go through,
Yeah.
But again, the positives, make up for it.
Yes.
But you've got to assume something's going to go wrong. I mean, being on the road is very spinal tap. It really is. I mean, it can be serious, it can be farcical, it can be funny, it can be sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got all the ingredients, that go to make up the bigger picture, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think the things that haven't gone so well, the lowlights are important though? I think a lot of the time I think they are important because they make you grateful for the good times, and they help you learn a lot. You take a lot from it, don't you? So going forward, you think, well, I've learned a lot from that. And I think it strengthens you as well, doesn't it? It toughens your skin a little bit, it makes you ready to take on the next, whatever it might be, So yeah, how have you dealt with those lowlights? And do you think they've actually helped sometimes?
Well, you certainly learn.
Yep.
You certainly learn. I don't think they help in the classic sense, you know what I mean? But definitely you learn from them, and hopefully, correct it or whatever you have to do to avoid the similar thing happening again. Sometimes, especially touring in the winter, could be, a real problem, especially touring America. Not so bad in this country, but certainly in America, where you're going, climate change in America can be, sunny. You're doing a gig in the sunshine one day, the next, the next gig, below bloody 20 degrees freezing.
Yeah.
So weather conditions can hit you, but you can't foresee that.
No,
that's
exactly.
That's things you just got to go with the flow. Yeah, I mean, I've been stuck in Anchorage for 3 days.
Really?
Yeah, things like that, and you just can't do it. There's nothing you can do about it. Just get frustrated.
Yeah, you can, and that's a great point, isn't it? There's some things that you cannot control. You know, you can be as prepared as you like, have everything in order. Some things you can't control.
Yeah, the wild card. Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah, I
always a
like that.
wild card.
Yeah, the wild card. Have you got any? You've done quite well to skate around that. Of not mentioning any particular stories, but you must have a couple of highlights. I mean, I've got some here that blow me away. But is there anything in particular for you that just stick out and make you think, "Do you know what, that was something I'll never forget"?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, the foundations when we were stuck at when I were going through the East and West Germany, that always, I'll never forget that. I mean, I drained on that one. I was just thought we'd had it,
Really?
Yeah. But of course, that's why I say sometimes these things are farcical, because the band, were just oblivious to it.
Really?
They just
No idea.
cruised on, yeah. They didn't see
And
it
you in the
at all.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose you're the sort of legs underneath, aren't you? Sort of paddling and going crazy, whilst everything on top just looks all calm and serene.
Trying to be calm on the top and going crazy underneath,
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And I think, what is it like for you coming back from something like that as well? Because like you say, you've had lots of things that have gone wrong, but I think it's quite important for people to hear, not these things went wrong and it was really tricky. That's important to hear as well, but how you recover from that and come forward from it as well. How do you keep pushing on, thinking, you said in your own words there, you think we've had it, you think we've had it here, but how do you keep going and still be doing it for years to come?
You don't, you just sort of, I mean, finishing a tour, it can be a downer, because, you're still running at, your brain's still going at 90 miles an hour, and then you've stopped. My wife at one point, I mean, she used to loathe it when I used to come off the road, because I was still so hyperactive.
Yeah, it's like a shift, isn't it? It's like changing your routine, your everything, isn't it?
Yeah, you suddenly get, going in full charge, and then the tour stopped and you're back at home digging the garden.
Yeah, back to reality. Yeah, definitely. And you hear about yeah, exactly, that's it. Yeah, a different type of travel, isn't it, that one? But you hear a lot of people that struggle with that as well, that is artists, and it's the crew as well behind it, isn't it, where it's the come down, isn't it? And stars actually that have maybe had a massive success in the 80s, but maybe not so much now, or in the 90s, or whenever it may be, but it's that come down, isn't it, which is really hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's very much a come down, and of course your brain's still out there.
Yes,
you're used to getting coming and going out of hotel rooms, things like that. And so you're just leaving your towel on the floor. Where you get home, you've got to tidy the bathroom.
Yeah, I love that. That's real though, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's reality.
That brings you down to earth quick. I can show you. What you do with the toilet? Can you tidy up after yourself, for God's sake?
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
There's no housekeeping here coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No breakfast in the room.
No, exactly. What's this all about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I mean, a couple of stories I would say. I mean, Stevie Wonder driving a tour bus is something that I need to ask you about. I have to ask you, because that's something that I've read about and that you talk about. And it's just one of these things. I've got you. I'm very lucky to be talking to you, and I can't not ask you about it. What happened?
Well, it was I was with the Foundations, and we were doing a tour, an Odeon tour, and the package was Stevie Wonder's headlining, Foundations second on the bill, and a girl band called Flirtations were the opening act. Anyway, Stevie was, he's got a great sense of humour. I believe he has still got it. And anyway, he was always, joking and being funny, and making the odd prank. So one day they thought the girls thought they'd play a little trick on him. So he comes out of the backstage door, and we're all traveling on the same tour bus, and they bring him out the backstage door and put him on the bus, and the engine's running and ticking over, obviously. And anyway, they put him into the driver's seat, and of course Stevie clocks this.
Yeah.
And he starts revving the bus and fiddling about with the gears and doing this on the steering wheel, And of course that freaks out the girls now, because stop him.
Oh,
and the weird thing is he married one of them.
No way. That's a great story. That's amazing. That's like a bit of when a joke goes a little bit too far, I suppose, isn't it? And then you start thinking, I wish I didn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I suppose humor like that's really important, isn't it? Especially if you're like that. I suppose that doesn't happen as much anymore, is it? To share a tour bus, like you say now, you'll go to an arena show and there'll be 15 tour buses at the back. It's crazy, isn't it? They've got one for the tour manager, one for the family of the artist. It's massive, isn't it? So actually, when you're traveling together in a confined space, it's not always going to be easy. So I suppose a bit of humor like that keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, then of course, people. There's always people. Pulling pranks on people. I mean, hiding things. The sort of juvenile type jokes.
Yes. Yeah. It's got to be done. Absolutely.
And pranks.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, that's a great story as well. And I think one thing that's happened, it happens quite a lot now, actually. I don't know, even maybe more so is artists not turning up for shows. You see it a lot now, don't you? Where actually some artists have got this reputation that actually we're going to go see them, but we don't know if they're going to turn up. And I know you had that experience with Ginger Baker, obviously, like that renowned sort of not a lot of no shows and things like that. I mean, for you, that's the hardest part is for you and the crew, isn't it? Because how do you deal with the financial, contractual, all of that stuff? How do you deal with that, the aftermath of someone not showing up?
Well, I mean, some people, as you say, some people do have a reputation of being iffy, but the bottom line is, you just have to get on with it. I mean, if you've got notice, of course, then the gig's cancelled, so you're not going. But it's a real downer when you've set up the stage. You're really prepped up. Do you know what I mean? And ready to go, and then they don't turn up. It's such a downer. It really deflates one.
Yeah, because the amount of work that goes into getting there, getting the crew there, and it's not just the artist that needs to get there. There's so many other people that have got there ready for the show, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, it's such it's burst balloon syndrome. That is you can pop. Oh dear. And of course there's no fulfillment in it. It's
Yeah, and how do you manage that with? Yeah, you just deal with it. And how do you sort of manage it in terms of, do you take that on personally? I think there's a lot of things where you can really personally take that on. You say like it's a burst balloon moment, it's a real knock, and it's probably quite hard to take that and keep that, that's just my business, that's my work, and not to take it on personally. Is there a way that you dealt with that?
Yeah, well, the question can be the other way around, whereas, the artist has turned up, but the equipment hasn't.
Yeah, of course.
It can work like that, yeah. Yeah, it's not always the artist that, has to cancel a show. I mean, I've had shows where, we had trucks stuck.
Yep.
Kept it, been impounded at customs,
right.
Things like that, because the paperwork wasn't right or something along those lines, So that can happen too.
Yeah, so there's so many different, eventualities, really, isn't there, that people probably don't realize, because you go there and you turn up, there's a stage, and it's the gig happens, and you don't think, well, actually, every little bit that you're seeing had to get there. Like these festivals amazes me. It's a field, isn't it, in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly everything's there.
Yeah, believe it or not, nowadays, if the sequence of trucks doesn't arrive at the venue in order,
right,
that can screw up. That can delay the setup, because there's a certain priority that trucks don't just turn up.
No.
For example, the staging comes in first.
Yep.
Once the stage is down, then probably the lights will go up. So the lighting truck comes in second. And then probably the the sound system will probably turn up, and then the back line, blah blah blah. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
so it all happens in sequence. So if you've got one or two trucks out of sequence, that can screw up the load and setup.
Definitely, I suppose, especially with, like you say, festivals and things like that, because they can be quite remote. They can be single track roads going into them. That's not easy to say, well, we'll just quickly stop here and you go around us, things like that. It doesn't really happen, does it?
Yeah. And of course, when you're going through, country customs checkpoints and stuff like that, especially in Europe, and I've had equipment stuck at airports.
Yeah, because there's so much to check. I suppose it's not like a suitcase in customs that you sort of quickly have a look inside. You've got an Arctic truck full of equipment, so that's quite a lengthy process, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've had all sorts of stuff. Full sound system. Going to Japan and via Hawaii, I had a load of stuff stuck in Los Angeles. With couldn't get it out. So
Wow.
it wasn't anybody's fault on our part. The blasted customs people were on strike or going slow.
Yeah. You can't. And again, the wild card.
Legislate for that,
No, there's no way you can plan for it. No way at all. Wow, amazing stories. I think the final one, I just want to ask about Led Zeppelin, because I'm a big fan of Led Zeppelin anyway. So you've done a lot with Zeppelin in the past. There are quite a lot of stories from that one, though, isn't there, that have come up? A lot of interesting things that happen with them.
Yeah, I mean, that was a friend of mine who was telling me about that. A guy called John McLean. He was one of the original road crew. He worked for the famous Shea Stadium show with the Beatles. And we're still very good friends. He's telling me that what happened there. Because in those days, you see, it wasn't unusual to pick up cash after the show.
Yeah.
No, it's not like it was these days, where it's all electronically done and things like that.
No, of course.
Again, another innovation, as we were talking earlier. And so it wasn't unusual. But that tour manager, bless him, he picked up the cash, put it in the hotel safe, and this, that, and the other. Next morning, wasn't there.
And it's a lot of money as well, right?
A lot of money, but fortunately, I mean, how do you prove that? Somebody get the combination of, who knows,
Exactly.
But anyway, the band, were quite, I mean, a couple of instances like that, but the band were good. And, because he was doing, there was no reason why he would have, done it. Do you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was just one of those situations that can happen to you, I mean, that was the trouble. I used to hate carrying lots of cash.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. It's added pressure, isn't it?
At some points I'd have as much as 100,000, stashed all over the place,
Yeah. And having to sort of, make sure you keep hold of it, because it's got to go to somebody eventually at some point.
Well, of course, you're paying out a lot of cash on the road too.
Yeah.
Eventually I got around that by employing what they do, a lot of people do now, I think probably the first to do it, was having a tour accountant.
That makes sense, because there's a lot of money exchanging hands in and out, isn't it? Yeah, well, because that's what it is, isn't it? I think that's really important, isn't it? Structuring a business like that. It's saying, this is your role, this is what you're doing. You fully immerse yourself in that and focus. I'll focus on the managing the tour, because the last thing you want to be doing, like you say, when you've got trucks stuck in a different part of the country and there's trouble with customs, for you to worry about, oh, hang on, where's the cash for the sound engineers? Where's the cash for this? It's the least of your worries.
Probably heard of the expression, the road crews get their per diem, their daily money. They get a daily rate,
Yeah.
And so that's all done in cash. It still is, I believe.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, especially if you've got a lot of crew, that's a lot of cash you've got to keep by you.
Absolutely. That's a serious amount of money, isn't it? Definitely. Wow. Yeah, it is amazing when you think about it. And that's just a few things. Obviously, there's loads more, and a lot of them are in an amazing project that you've put together. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you've created? Because it'd be great for obviously those that have listened, enjoyed a few of the stories. There's a lot more out there, so they can check them out in what you've just created.
Well, it's just, I thought I put it together as opposed in the type of book whereby it's not just about, the group or the artist.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring in people that, that are not in the limelight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give them a go, because quite honestly, I think they've got better stories to tell than the bands or the musicians.
Yeah, probably.
Because they see things in a different way, and see more of it in a different way,
Yeah, it's more like being like a fly on the wall, basically, isn't it? You're kind of there, living it, and it's different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was the reason behind that. It made it a little bit different as well, rather than just, we had a great gig, wasn't it wonderful, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and you're covering all sorts, aren't you? You've got Stage Fright with Carole King is one thing, isn't it? And the Sex Pistols and the dealings with those guys, and a bit of Beatles in there. I mean, it's endless, isn't it, the stories? So where can people check out more of the stories? Because they are now all put in one piece of work.
Yep, it's Backstage Chronicles, published by Astral Horizon, and you can get it on Amazon or Waterstones, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
absolutely. No, it's definitely worth checking out. And it's just been awesome to talk to you in real life and talk about it, because there's something a little bit more about it, isn't it? When it's animated and seeing your face as well, when you talk about memories and things that have happened, it sort of takes you right back, doesn't it? And it's something about that.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely.
it's also made me think I could have, and the weird thing is I could have, damn, why didn't I put that story in?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And I suppose that will never end, really. I mean, there's just bound to be so many that you're just going to go, well, actually, that, oh yeah, and that. But you'll have to do a follow up.
Actually, it might give people like myself a bit of encouragement to put their story out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And inspire people, I think, as well. Like you say, a lot of it is about the artist, the person that they see at the front. But I think there's so many people out there that don't want to be that person. They don't want to be a front man and all of that. They want to be part of the behind the scenes. So hearing you talk about it and putting some light on that, I think will inspire a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I hope so. Yeah,
Definitely.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got their stories, haven't they?
Absolutely. At any level, whatever you do, every single person's got a story, haven't they? And that's what I love about, chatting to people on here as well. Every industry and whatever part you are in the industry, everyone's got something to say, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing.
They really have. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Just want to say a massive thanks, Carl. Really appreciate it. Great to meet you. And let's talk again at some point. I'd love to talk to you more.
Well, we've got in the pros at the moment of putting the audiobook version together.
Awesome.
So there'll be some extra stories on that.
Oh, see, now there's a few that you thought of. You can
just after Christmas. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, the stories I've forgotten. Yeah.
I love that. You can add to it. It's like the bonus edition. Oh no, that'd be amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing that as well.
Great, no problem. We'll let you know.
Thanks once again. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.
You too, Cameron. Thanks a lot.